we have to start the defense. Can you hear me? All those online?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Falika Zouga, Director of the Africa Center of Excellence for Water Management, and chairperson for this defense by our candidate, Mr. Lusanjo Henry Mfwango. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
Mfwango. So Mr. Lusanjo, he completed his BSc in Food Science and Technology, MTech in Irrigation Management from IIT Roorkee in India. And the last 4 years, he has been a PhD candidate in water management with a specialization in hydrology and water resources management at the Africa Center of Excellence for Water Management at Addis Ababa University. I think he's a staff member of the Water Institute in Tanzania. So after completion, he will join the Water Institute. The PhD dissertation is going to present now is evaluation of the impact of climate and land use, land cover change on water balance components of Ruvu River in Kibungo subcatchment of Upper Ruvu catchment in eastern Tanzania. External examiner is the Professor Asafa Malesa from Florida International University in USA. Just to give a brief introduction, a short introduction of Professor Asafa. He's a professor of water resources engineering with background in remote sensing and geospatial applications to hydrological modeling. He earned his ME and PhD from University of Florida in agricultural engineering with 2 concentrations, hydrological sciences and GIS, and 3 minors, civil engineering, environmental engineering, and remote sensing. His area of research and experience includes spatially distributed hydrologic modeling, ecohydrology, spatial surface water balance modeling, sediment transport, surface and groundwater interaction modeling, spatial evapotranspiration mapping using remote sensing, water energy carbon flux coupling and modeling, remote sensing hydrology, climate change impact modeling, river basin management, and land cover change detection and scaling. So he has worked on application of artificial neural network and other statistical learning techniques to hydrology. He has served as major co-major advisor of over 50 PhD and MSc students since 2004 at Florida International University, as well as at collaborating international institutions. Professor Asafa Malesa is a registered professional engineer and also diplomate of water resource engineer with over 30 years of teaching and research experiences. A geographic area and basin of his research covers the Nile River Basin, the Blue Nile River, Ethiopia, the Mara River Basin, Lake Victoria Basin, Kenya and Tanzania, South Florida, Everglades, USA, and the Caribbean hydrology. He has published over 514 journal articles, books, book chapters, and edited special issues, conference abstracts, presentations, and project reports. It's this is a very short, brief introduction of Professor Asafa Malesa, and it's a pleasure to welcome you, Professor Asafa, to examine this defense. His external examiner, his internal examiner is Dr. Dese Nedau. Dr. Dese obtained his BSc in geology from Addis Ababa University, MSc in hydrogeology from Addis Ababa University, and PhD in hydrogeology from the University of Natural Resources and Life Sciences, Vienna in Austria. Currently, he's Associate Professor of Hydrogeology at the School of Earth Sciences and College of Natural and Computational Sciences of Addis Ababa University. Dr. Desi served as head of Department of Applied Geology at Makerere University, Dean of College of Science and Technology at Makerere University. Currently, he's the Director of Undergraduate Program of Addis Ababa University. He has supervised and co-supervised several MSc and PhD students and has published more than 22 articles on internationally reputable journals. His supervisors, the main supervisor, he has two supervisors. The main supervisor is Professor Enalem Ayano here from Addis Ababa University, and Professor Henry Fetail Mahu is co-supervisor from Sokoine University of Agriculture in Tanzania. So Professor Mahu will not be able to join us today. So I will briefly introduce Professor Enal. Professor Enal, he received his BSc in geology from Addis Ababa University, postgraduate diploma equivalent to MSc in hydrological engineering from the International Institute for Hydraulic and Environmental Engineering, Delft, Netherlands, and MSc in water resources surveying from the International Institute for Aerospace Survey and Earth Sciences, Enschede, Netherlands, and PhD in hydrogeology from the Free University of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Currently, he's a professor of hydrogeology and engineering geology at the School of Earth Sciences of Addis Ababa University. And Professor Enalem has supervised and co-supervised several MSc and PhD students and has published over 100 articles, books, book chapters. Professor Henry, Professor Mahu is a co-supervisor. He is holding a PhD in agricultural engineering from Sokoine University of Agriculture, MSc in irrigation engineering from University of Southampton. Professor Mahu has more than 30 years of experience of consulting and research in the area of agriculture, water management, integrated water resources management, climate change adaptation, irrigation, and natural resources management. Professor Mahu is an active member of various professional institutions, networks, and associations. Professor Mahu is a member of the Tanzanian Water Partnership in Tanzania and has published more than 70 articles. Coming to the presentation schedule today, Mr. Lusanjo will have a maximum of 50 minutes for presentation, which will be followed by questions or comments by external and then followed by internal examiner in respective order. And time for questions and comments for external examiners, internal examiners, if possible, 20 minutes each. Then after the defense, is complete, audience are kindly requested, those in virtual audience and those in this seminar room will be required to leave the session. So that is the procedure, and the examiners will finally come together and discuss and decide on the status of the PhD thesis, as well as the presentation by Mr. Lusanjo. So, Mr. Lusanjo, please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Ferreira, for a brief introduction to Professor Enalem and Dr. Desi, and my colleagues who are here physically. I'm pleased to welcome you all. And for the Professor Asefa and others who are following virtually online, you are mostly welcome in this defense. The title of my PhD dissertation is the evaluation of the impact of climate and land use cover change on the water balance components of Ruvu River at Kibungo subcatchment of Upper Ruvu catchment in eastern Tanzania. This work has been supervised by Professor Tenalem Ayeneo from the School of Earth Science at Addis Ababa University and Professor Henry F. Maho from the Department of Agriculture and Engineering and Land Planning at the Sokoine University of Agriculture. In this presentation, I'll take you through the 4 sessions, starting with the introduction, and then we'll end up into conclusion and the recommendation. To start with the introduction, the water resource is at the core of the sustainable socio-economic development and the ecological conservation all over the world. Within the continent, over the available water, about 97.5 is a salt water, available as a salt water, and only 2.5% is available as the fresh water. Actually, this fresh water is distributed to ice cap and glaciers for the about 79%, and the groundwater, which occupies 20%. So from all these components, we can see here, we have the water which is available as a flowing water in the river, which is the smallest amount of the water and which is easily accessible by the people for their socio-economic activities. Globally, water distribution vary between developing country and developed country. As you can see from the figure, agriculture, it occupies the largest amount of the water, followed by the industrial and the domestic activities. In Tanzania, agriculture is the backbone of the economy. About 80% of the population living in rural area are employed in agriculture, and it contributes about the 45% of the GDP and 55% of the foreign exchange. Out of the million hectare of the land, of the arable land which are available in Tanzania, only 24% is under cultivation. That means here there is a potential of increasing agricultural activities. An increasing human population and economic growth has resulted into the increasing demand on the resources utilization. From the report indicated by the World Bank, between the period of 1990 and 2020, it is indicated that the forest land has been decreasing while the population and the agricultural land has been increased. Tanzania has already experienced the impact of climate and the land cover change in various sectors. For example, in agriculture and water supply, drought in 1994 to 1996, 2005, and 2010 has resulted in the food insecurity and the water scarcity. Again, the drought in 2005 and 6, it is approximated that it cost about 1% of the country GDP. The shortage of the water supply in Dar es Salaam due to low level of the intake at Ruvu River has been experienced. Actually, this month, starting on the month of the October and November, there was a water rationing in the Dar es Salaam city due to the drought. When it comes to the infrastructure and settlement, flooding in 2009 has destroyed the central railway that is connecting Dar es Salaam and the Dodoma. So for the period of 5 months, there was the cut of the service. In the year of 2011, flooding has resulted into the deaths of the 43 people and destruction of the major transportation network. Statement of the problem. Ruvu River is the main source of the water to approximately about 6 million people living in Dar es Salaam city and others who are alongside the river in Morogoro and the coastal region. The failure, it was indicated that the failure of water supply as a result of deforestation would cost the city of Dar es Salaam about 4.6 to 17.6 USD million per year. The report on the Uluguru forests and the biodiversity on the Uluguru mountains, it indicated that between 1995 to 2001, there was a decline in forests from 300 kilometers square to 230 kilometers square. This has resulted due to the human activities within the catchment. In Kibungo sub-catchment, the community, they are engaged in the activities that are dangerous to the environment, such as unsustainable farming technique with the minimum use of the soil conservation. This involves the shifting cultivation, slash and burns, harvesting of timber woods, charcoal production, and building poles. And one thing here, these people, their major market, their largest market for the charcoal production, again, is the Dar es Salaam city. So land fragmentation also has been reported. One of the factors that is hindering a proper management of the land within the sub-catchment. Hydrologically, Kibungo sub-catchment contributes more flow into the Luvu River compared to the other two sub-catchment, which is Ngeta and Ngerengere sub-catchment. There is a stream flow analysis for the period of 50 years. It has indicated that the annual stream flow has decreased by 8.5 meter cubic per second. And then during the rain season, 16 meter cubic per second, and dry season, 5 meter cubic per second. Climate change will have more impact in the future compared to the others. Several studies has been conducted in Tanzania regarding the projection of the climate change in the future, has indicated that there will be an increasing in temperature. However, there is a mixed trend in rainfall. It is expected that by 2100, some part of the country will experience an increase of 5 to 45%, while other parts of the country will experience the decrease between 10 to 15%. The climate change is expected to cost about 2% of the Tanzania GDP by 2030. The projected demand for water supply for Dar es Salaam city from the Luvu River is about 27.7 meter cubic per second and 62 meter cubic per second for the period for the year 2030 and 2060. So here we see there's a demand for water supply in Dar es Salaam city, and again there's projection in increasing in temperature in the future. At the same time, at the upstream area, there's demand for water for agriculture, as both of these people, they're depending on the same source. So here we find out that there is a need to understand and quantify the consequence of the climate change and land use cover change, so that we can be able to plan for the proper utilization of the available resources within the catchment. Research objective. The main objective of this study was to evaluate the impact of climate and the land use cover change on the hydrological process of the Luvu River at the Kibungo sub-catchment. So here we formulate about 3 specific objectives, which include to evaluate the combining impact of future climate and land use cover change on the water balance component, to evaluate the separate impact of future climate change on the water balance component, and lastly, to evaluate the effectiveness of the best management practice on the surface runoff reduction. Following the formulated objective, here we formulated about 6 research questions, which will guide us through to achieve the aforementioned objectives. Material and the methodology. Study area. The Kibungo sub-catchment is located on the eastern slope of the Uluguru Mountains, between 204 meters up to 2,000 638 meters. It occupies an area of about 466.5 kilometers square. The Ruvu River at Kibungo subcatchment, it comprises with the two major tributaries, which is the Mvizigo, that is flowing from southwest toward the eastern center of the catchment, and the Mbezi River, which is flowing again from the northern part toward the eastern central. Kibungo subcatchment, it occupies about 44% of the Uruguru Nature Reserve, and on the eastern part, that's the small part of the Kimboza forest is occupied by Kibungo subcatchment. So within this subcatchment, we have 6 stations which we use to collect data for rainfall and the temperature. Okay, here we have the table which is presenting the types of the data and their source where we collected. So we have the meteorological data, stream flow data, and the spatial data with their respective sources. The figure below is just trying to show the time series data of rainfall and the temperature within the subcatchment. So the subcatchment is experienced a bimodal rainfall pattern. That means we have the long rain season between March, April, and May, and the short rain season, which starts from the October, November, and December. The temperature is high during the month of November and February for the period of 1981 to 2019. Preparation of land use cover maps. So we employed several tools for that purpose. Okay, here we use the Landsat image of 1991, 2008, and 2020 to develop a land use map of 1991, 2008, and 2020. Actually, we conducted the ground truthing for the land use map of 2020. And again, we use the approach of the backdating the Google Earth for the land use map of 1991 to 2008 for the accuracy assessment. From the outcome of the land use map of 2008 and 2020, we use these two maps again to predict the land use map for the year 2040 and 2080. For this purpose, we use land change modeler on the Telset geospatial monitoring tool and modeling system. SWOT model setup, calibration, and validation. ArcSWOT environment were used for this purpose, and we employ RSWOT for sensitivity analysis, calibration, and validation. About the 17 parameters which are related to the hydrological process has been used for sensitivity analysis. So we divide the periods for the warm-up, calibration, and validation. To evaluate the performance of the process, 3 objective functions were used, which is NSE, coefficient of attenuation, and Green-Gupta efficient. So our first objective was to evaluate the combined impact of the future climate and land use change on water balance component at the Kibungo subcatchment. So the model, the calibrated SWOT model, was simulated for the period of 2021 up to 2040 by using the land use map of 2040. And again, we simulate the model using the data of 2041 to 2070 by using the land use map of 2070 that we generate. And this was done under the 2 representative concentration pathway, which is RSP 4.5 and RSP 8.5. The second objective was to evaluate the impact, the separate impact of the climate and the land use cover change on the water balance component. The aim here was to find out between the 2 factors, climate change and land use cover change, which one has more impact compared to others. This is very helpful when you develop some of the strategies for mitigation and the adaptation. So the first part of this objective, we evaluate the impact of the historical land use cover change on the surface runoff. For this purpose, we use soil conservation service curve number methods. So we use the land use map of 1991, 2008, and 2020. To avoid the impact of the climate, we use the land use map of 2018. So the curve number for a given land use type for each land use map we determine, and then we calculate the weighted curve number from different land use classes for the whole subcatchment. So here we have two formula which are related to the antecedent moisture condition as indicated on the table. So we use this to calculate the formula for the given moisture condition during that period. The analysis was done by using Mankendo trend test and sensor estimator, as well as Pearson correlation coefficient. The second part now, which is the evaluation of the separate impact of the future climate and land use change on the water balance component. The purpose was to quantify, as I said before, which factor has major impact on the water balance component. So one factor at a time modeling experiment was employed for this purpose. So we set 4 sets of the scenarios. As is indicated on the table, we use the land use map of 2040 and 2070 and the climate data of 2021, 2040, and the 2041 to 2070. These are the sum of the formula which guide us through the process. The third objective was the evaluation of the effectiveness of the best management practice on the runoff reduction. As we see, there's a problem with the land use and land cover change. So we have to find out which practice will help the farmer within the subcatchment to reduce the surface runoff. So this was achieved by changing the specific parameter within the SWOT input file. So we selected 3 best management practices, which is contour farming, strip cropping, and terraces. So for contour farming and strip cropping, the value of the curve number were adjusted by reducing 3 units from the calibrated value. And for the terraces, we reduce about 6 units, again, from the calibrated value of the curve number. Furthermore, 2 parameters were considered, which has the effect, which indicate the effect of those practices. That is USLE practice factors and the slope of the sub-basin. So further, for this purpose, the simulation was conducted on agricultural field with the less than 40%. Then we employ this formula to calculate the effect of this practice. At the second section of this objective, we evaluate the performance of selected management practice on runoff reduction under different flow regime using flow duration curve. So here we employ the flow duration curve to understand how do the management practice they perform under the different flow. So this flow duration curve were developed from the simulated average daily flow for the period of the 2021, 2040 under RCP 8.5. The results were analyzed by Whisker and box plot. Results and discussion. Land use cover map. So after developing our land use land cover map, we check for the accuracy of the process. The overall accuracy indicated that for the year 1991 and 2008 and 2020, it was at 8.6, 83.9, and 84.7 respectively. The kappa value for the respective years was 86, 8, and 82%. The analysis of land use cover map indicated that forest will be reduced from overall from the 1991 to 2020, forest cover will be reduced while the build-up area and the agricultural field will increase to some extent. The future land use land cover map for the year 2040 and 2070. It is indicated that the build-up area will increase by 84% from 14 to 22.4, and agriculture field also will increase from 45.9 to 71.4. Forest area indicated decreasing from 322.3 and 288.4, which is equivalent to 10.5%. So here we base on the major land use classes which show changes. Overall, we found about 7 land use classes within the study area, but these 3, they indicated a major changes. So that's why we are more interested in this one rather than the others. Again, for the period of 2041 to 70, the same trend has been observed that the build-up will increase as well as the agriculture rent, while the forest will tend to decrease. Sensitivity analysis, model calibration, and validation. After performing the process, we evaluate our results. Actually, our model was the simulated results here indicated some of the, it underestimates the low flow for the year 2009 to 13, but somehow it overpredicted for the year 15 to 17. However, during the calibration period, there was an improvement between the simulated and the observed sea flow values. Based on the criteria described, our results were successful with the NSE of 0.65, R square 0.664, and the KGE of 0.69. So from the sensitivity analysis, we selected number of the parameter which will now be used as an input in SWOT model for the simulation purpose. So for this case, we have 10 parameters which were more sensitive and were used for calibration. The combined impact of future climate and the land use cover change on the water balance component. Actually, the change in climate and the land use government and the land use land cover change indicated an impact on the water balance components. So generally, it showed that the evapotranspiration during these 2 periods, between 2021, 2040, and 2041 to 70, tended to increase, while the others components tended to decrease. The temperature and rainfall analysis on the study area for the future period, also they indicated an increasing in temperature and the decreasing in rainfall. So we came to conclude that the increasing in evapotranspiration could be due to either increasing in temperature, and again, as we have seen that within our subcatchment, we have a reserved forest. So besides there is a change in land use land cover and land use land cover, the presence of the forest reserve could also contribute to the increasing in evapotranspiration in the study area. For the rain season and the dry season, there is a mixed trend. However, it is indicated that also the evapotranspiration value is higher compared to the other components. The impact of climate and the land use land cover change on the stream flow. So from the figure, it is indicated that the higher stream flow were observed during the months of November on the monthly basis, and the minimum flow were observed in the months of September. However, the historical data indicated that the maximum flow in the month of the April and the minimum flow in the month of the October. Actually, for this period of 2021 to 2040, there was a shifting in rainfall pattern. During this period, we have a long season of the rainfall, which is different from the historical period. For the historical period that we have seen earlier, we have two rain for season, long rain and short rain. But here there was a shifting in rainfall season. So we're expecting that could be the reason for these changes here. Interannual analysis indicated that between 2021 to 2040, the stream flow will decrease by 65.4 meter cubic per second under the RSP 4.5 and 195.9 meter cubic per year under the RSP 8.5. So again, we repeat we did this for the period again of 2041 and 2070. So for this case, there was some correlation on the trend from the historical and the future period. However, the peak on monthly basis is in April, and the secondary peak is on December, as well as the for the RCP 8.5, it was in November and April. Again, the interannual analysis indicated that there was a significant decrease in stream flow by 13.7 meter cubic per year, as well as decrease in significance decrease by 7.63 meter cubic per year under the two representative concentration pathway. This part of the objective has been published in the Journal of the Herion and Elsevier. Now, the evaluation of the separate impact of climate and land use change on a water balance component. The first session, it was just to evaluate how does the historical land use will impact the surface runoff. So from this figure here, we can see that the surface runoff follow the rainfall trend at the study area. But you can see this bar chart indicated the rainfall, and this line indicated the surface runoff. So there was a high runoff during the months of the April, and when we compare the three land use land cover map, we find out that the land use cover map of 2020 has a higher surface runoff, annual surface runoff, compared to the rest. So that is obvious. This is due to the land degradation comparing between the three land use cover maps. Again, we study the relationship between the land use classes and the surface runoff. So here we use the Pearson correlation coefficients, and the trend analysis was used also. to start the trend. So it showed that the runoff was increasing between 1991 to 2020. The runoff was increasing, as well as the agricultural field was increasing, and the buildup was also increasing. The other land use classes were not considered because they indicated insignificant changes. So the correlation coefficients indicated that there was strong correlation between the change in the build-up area and the surface runoff, as well as the agricultural field. But the forest show the negative correlation. That means while the forest was decreasing, the surface runoff tended to decrease. Again, this part of the objective also has been published in the Journal of the Environmental Challenge under Elsevier. Now, the separate impact of future climate change and land use cover change on water balance components. So here we consider the evapotranspiration, surface runoff, lateral flow, groundwater flow, and the water yield. So it was indicated that let's consider about the surface runoff. It is indicated that the climate change has more impact compared to land use, land cover change. So it means that as we observed from our results, there was significant decreasing in rainfall, but the trend of the temperature increasing was not significant. So that could be the reason for this observation here. The effectiveness of the best management practice in runoff reduction. As I said before, we consider 3 practices, and the analysis was done on the annual runoff. So among the three practices, it is indicated that from the figure, the terracing, which is presented by the yellow color, it reduces more runoff compared to these two. However, within these two methods, that is contouring and strip cropping, there was slight development in there was slightly differences in their performance. So for the both period, 2021, 2040, and 2021, I mean for both RCP, the terracing was performing better in runoff reduction compared to the other practice. Furthermore, we evaluate the performance of the management practice under different flow conditions. For this case, we use the whisker and the box plot. As we can see, the first part of this figure, this is the flood condition. The first part is the flood condition. The second one, moist condition. The third one, the average condition, dry condition, and drought condition. From this figure, it was observed that as the flow decreases, the performance of the practices also increases. So it goes in that way until it reaches the stage of the average flow condition. From there, further from there, there was no benefit obtained by this practice for runoff reduction. But here the reason could be due to the low flow, due to the minimal rainfall that can cause the runoff to be generated in the study area. However, again, it indicated that terraces outperform other methods in runoff reduction. Conclusion and recommendation. This study provided valuable information on the negative impact of the climate and the land use cover change on the hydrologic process at the Ruvu River at Kibungo subcatchment. It has been observed both climate change and the land use cover change will have an impact on the hydrologic process of Ruvu River at Kibungo. However, climate change has more impact compared to land use cover change in this hydrological process. Stream flow analysis indicated significant decrease by 65.4 meter cubic per year, as well as 195.9 meter cubic per year between 2021-2040. For the period of the 2041 to 2070, there was insignificant decreasing observed. Terraces outperform other practices in runoff reduction. Limitation. Actually, the application of the remote sensing and the GIS has provided us with the useful means for land use land cover classification. However, there is some inherent limitation to it. One thing I have been experienced, that is the challenge to acquire the cloud-free satellite. Actually, this image we acquired in the month of the September, but we expect during this, because of the climate condition, there will be less cloud. However, due to the location of the catchment, there was some difficult to get a free cloud condition. I mean, the free satellite image. Again, with the resolution of this image of 30 meter, it was somehow difficult to differentiate some of the land use classes, for example, agriculture, shrubs, and grassland. Another limitation, it was the time frame. It was not sufficient enough to conduct a detailed study on the soil and the investigation of the best management practice. When I developed this proposal, I was thinking about conducting field experiment on the performance of this management practice, but due to the shortage of time, so I reserved this one for the future. A recommendation. So to ensure environmental conservation within the Kibungo sub-catchment, I recommend that this community should be diversification of the income generating activities. Such activities like beekeeping and the agroforest has shown profits in other areas. So if it can be adopted to this sub-catchment, it will remove pressure to the other available resources. Capacity building on the climate change adaptation and the mitigation strategy should be encouraged. This including improving irrigation water use efficiency, as well as promoting rainwater harvesting during the rain season that can be used during the dry season. Again, based on our start, we encourage the promotion of soil conservation agricultural practice. As we have seen, this is the highland area, and the agriculture is practiced on the slopeland area. So we have seen, terraces is performing better, so it can be employed to reduce the consequence. Furthermore, the future study may consider incorporating area photograph and higher resolution satellite image to improve the process of land use land cover classification. For the entire period of 4 years I've been here working for this research, there are some group of people in the institution which has been helping me in some other means to accomplish my objective. So first of all, I'd like to thank the African Center of Excellence for the provision of the financial support to pursue this PhD study in Addis Ababa University. I'm extremely grateful to my supervisor, Professor Tenalem, and Professor Henry Maho from the Sokoine University for their support and their advice during my study. Others group, including Water Basin, Meteorological Agents, Sokoine University, Agriculture, these people, they host me during my study, and they provide me with useful data which required for this research. Thanks to my colleague, friends, and the staff of the Africa Center for Excellence for their support, for being close to me, for my survival here in Addis Ababa. Finally, I would like to express my gratitude to my family and children, my mother. Without their tremendous understanding and encouragement, the whole period of my study, it would be impossible for me to accomplish this study. Thank you for listening.